You know the elites have won when we're forced to choose between DeSantis and Disney. It's a false conflict because the point of these conflicts is to turn us against each other instead of realizing who the real enemy is. Them. Both of them. All of them. Not you against me, it is us against them, only we don't know it. Because however it winds up, whoever wins, Disney or DeSantis, somehow we lose. This is a phony propaganda war, a battle to control our minds, especially the minds of our children. People have been conditioned and brainwashed to be angry at all the wrong things. We turn on each other, and especially the weak and minorities, instead of focusing on the real enemy, the power that controls everything. DeSantis and Disney are on the same side, but you wouldn't know it because the media stokes this false conflict. Remember, the major stockholders of Disney are the major stockholders of a lot of dark corporate shit. A lot of right-wing politicians, lobbies, and they're also a major stockholder in DeSantis, like BlackRock. You know BlackRock. BlackRock is one of Disney's biggest investors. They have $10 trillion in assets. That's more than the GDP of every country in the world, except the US and China. Think about that. BlackRock is a top shareholder in such woke industries as the climate-destroying fossil fuel industry like Exxon, Mobil, Chevron, and the Saudi Arabian oil company Aramco, just to name a few. And life-destroying arms and weapons manufacturers and contractors like Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Axon, the world's largest manufacturer of tasers, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon. They're also, by the way, major investors in Philip Morris. In fact, BlackRock may be the most destructive force on Earth and space. They are the major investors in every killing and destroying industry you can imagine. And Disney. BlackRock is also a gigantic investor in Florida, although they're squabbling with DeSantis too. But as I explained, although it's purportedly tied to the culture wars, we know that BlackRock is involved in actual wars. So again, this is a totally phony conflict that has everything to do with money and profit. So calling Disney or BlackRock woke is the pot calling the kettle black rock. So Disney and BlackRock and DeSantis will reconcile because they have so much in common. They are all into dividing people for their profits and ambitions. At one time, these powerful hidden entities that control everything thought we could trick people and distract them by making them happy. But as we've seen, at some point they realized that people were more malleable, more easily manipulated when they were unhappy. In fact, when they were angry. John Lydon said anger is an energy, and the elites have channeled that angry energy to do their bidding. The Civil War, which has already begun with various culture wars around the country, instigated by the same shamelessly profiteering carpetbaggers pretending to be on different sides. So what's the recourse? When you make the laws, control the politicians, own all the means of production, propagandize on this now so sophisticated level, any punishment is a charade. The same politicians, the same business leaders, the same media pundits, they're all still here, and they're all on the same side. Exploit you, scare you, squeeze you, break you. While we argue with each other about who's better. DeSantis or Disney or BlackRock, which, by the way, is also a major stockholder in Facebook, Fox, CNN, and Comcast. So it doesn't matter what we think. And by the way, the head of BlackRock, Larry Fink, is good buddies with both Trump and Biden. So who are we kidding here? Remember, Disney is not the little guy. Disney is not the underdog. Disney is one of the main reasons the writers are on strike. They are a ubiquitous global media conglomerate that makes billions of dollars while they lay off and otherwise screw as much of the workforce as possible. Then we are manipulated to sympathize with Disney because they made The Little Mermaid black, or support DeSantis' so-called attack on them. But that's not what's really going on. Because what is Disney's beef? Their real beef. Not that they want to promote tolerance or love. No, they want their tax loopholes. They want more profit, and they'll exploit our good natures and our children's minds to achieve it. It's a dichotomy that's designed to break our brains. Drag shows aren't the enemy. Books aren't the enemy. The truth about our history is not the enemy. And if you think so, you've been fooled. When we yell at each other and demean each other and threaten each other, no one's going to listen to each other, and that's exactly what they want. One might ask, what civil war? Where's the violence? Well, let's start with 1 million plus dead from COVID. While we argue about who started it, the Americans, the Chinese, nature, animals, wet markets, big pharma, the answer is yes, all of those. We have created a world of pandemics as a sophisticated tool in both population and mind control. Pandemics and profits. This civil war is different than the others. It started in the 60s with the coup d'etat, the corporate government media murder of JFK. When it worked, kill him and cover it up, they quickly realized that they had a successful formula and followed it with the murders of Robert F. Kennedy and Martin Luther King. They also killed or tried to kill troublesome extremists on both sides, like Malcolm X and George Wallace, and cultural heroes like John Lennon and Larry Flynt. And that became the big lie we still live. When John Connolly said they're going to kill us all, he was right. Race relations, class divisions, they're all intended to divide us. But we all got COVID. They tried to kill us all and did a pretty good job. But in truth, those differences are trivial compared to our differences with the corporate elite. The mainstream media, once a shining example of a free press, are now just trade papers for industry. Where do we get the truth? Not from the BlackRock-owned media. Instead, we get propaganda and lies and insanity. And somewhere in there, if you could wade through the bullshit, you may occasionally find that kernel of truth. And if you speak that truth, you are looked at as being crazy. Perfect. Why assassinate someone when you can reduce them to a meaningless fool using all the means at their disposal? There are always heroic people, martyrs, who will fight back and pay the price, willing to sacrifice themselves for the greater good. But no politician, media figure, corporation is like that. Neither Elon Musk nor George Soros are willing to make that sacrifice. Remember, every time we click on anything, they are making money. They want us to hate the Chinese. We are the Chinese, and they are us. Do you see this paradox? It's designed to make our brains hurt in order to figure it out. And once you figure it out, then what? What do you do? Drag shows aren't the problem. Transgenderism isn't the problem. Jews aren't the problem. Black people aren't the problem. No minority is the problem. These are tiny, tiny minorities being demonized to create a common enemy, which is actually no threat. And no matter who wins or loses, everybody can claim victory. But these are Pyrrhic victories. Haven't you noticed that nothing changes? The problem is Trump, Biden, Musk, Gates, Bezos, Soros, Larry Fink, all of them, white men who by their very nature and position are white supremacists. And remember, white supremacy isn't about race. Race is a construct. White supremacy is about power and control. So when you see people of color supporting white supremacy, like Tim Scott or Nikki Haley or Enrique Tarrio or Ali Alexander, don't ask why. Understand that is their goal. Instead of identifying the true enemy, we are thrown many false enemies into our path, and when those battles don't have conclusions, we as a country become mean and bitter and vindictive and angry. And that's perfect, because we are then vulnerable to the propaganda. And when all else fails, when the warring sides realize they're on the same side, when the warring sides realize they've all lost, get ready for the alien invasion. Can't you see it coming? A new war, a new enemy to unite us all in the one world government controlled by elite entities like BlackRock. Will you be anti-war then, or pro-alien? So remember, woke is a joke, and the joke's on us.